Those on the Edge by Jack London. I assure you I found nothing worse, nothing more degrading, nothing so hopeless, nothing nearly so intolerable, dull, and miserable as the life I left behind me in the East End of London. Huxley. My first impression of East London was naturally a general one. Later the details began to appear, and here and there in the chaos of misery I found little spots where a fair measure of happiness reigned. Sometimes whole rows of houses in little out-of-the-way streets where artisans dwell and where rude sort of family life obtains. In the evenings the men can be seen at the doors, pipes in their mouths and children on their knees, wives gossiping, and laugh and fun going on. The content of these people is manifestly great, for relative to the wretchedness that encompasses them they are well off. But at the best it is a dull animal happiness, the content of a full belly. The dominant note of their lives is materialistic. They are stupid and heavy without imagination. The abyss seems to exude a stupefying atmosphere of torpor which wraps about them and deades them. Religion passes them by. The unseen holds for them neither terror nor delight. They are unaware of the unseen, and the full belly and the evening pipe, with their regular earth and earth, is all they demand or dream of demanding from existence. This would not be so bad if it were all, but it is not all. The satisfied torpor in which they are sunk is the deadly inertia that precedes dissolution. There is no progress, and with them not to progress is to fall back and into the abyss. In their own lives they may only start to fall, leaving the fall to be completed by their children and their children's children. Man always gets less than he demands from life, and so little do they demand that the less that they get cannot save them. At the best, city life is an unnatural life of a human, but the city life of London is so utterly unnatural that the average workman or workwoman cannot stand it. Mind and body are sapped by the undermining influences ceaselessly at work, moral and physical stamina are broken, and the good workman, fresh from the soil, becomes in the first city generation a poor workman, and by the second city generation devoid of push and go and initiative, and actually unable physically to perform the labor his father did. He is well on the way to be shambles at the bottom of the abyss. If nothing else, the air he breathes, and from which he never escapes, is sufficient to weaken him mentally and physically, so that he becomes unable to compete with the fresh virile life of the country hastening on to London town to destroy and be destroyed. Leaving out the disease germs that fill the air of the East End, consider but the one item of smoke. Sir William Thistleton Dyer, curator of Kew Gardens, has been studying smoke deposit of vegetation, and, according to his calculations, no less than 6 tons of solid matter consisting of soot and tarry hydrocarbons are deposited every week on every quarter of a square mile in and about London. This is equivalent to 24 tons per week to the square mile, or 1,248 tons per year to the square mile. From the corners below the dome of St. Paul's Cathedral was recently taken a solid deposit of crystallized sulfate of limb. This deposit had been formed by the action of the sulfuric acid in the atmosphere upon the carbonate of lime in the stone, and this sulfuric acid in the atmosphere is constantly being breathed by the London workmen through all the days and nights of their lives. It is incontrovertible that the children grow up into rotten adults without virility or stamina, a weak-kneed, narrow-chested, listless brat that crumbles up and goes down in the brute struggles for life with the innovating hordes from the country. The railwaymen, carriers, omnibus drivers, corn and timber porters, and all those who require physical stamina are largely drawn from the country, while in the metropolitan police there are roughly 12,000 country-born as against 3,000 London-born. So one is forced to conclude that the abyss is literally a huge man-killing machine, and when I pass along the little out-of-the-way streets with a full bellied artisans at the doors, I am aware of a greater sorrow for them than for the 450,000 lost and hopeless wretches dying at the bottom of the pit. They, at least, are dying, that is the point, but these have yet to go through the slow and preliminary pangs extending through 2 and even 3 generations. And yet the quality of life is good. All human potentialities are in it. Given proper conditions, it could live through the centuries, and great men, heroes and masters spring from it and make the world better by having lived. I talked with a woman who was representative of the type which has been jerked out of its little out-of-the-way streets and has started on the fatal fall to the bottom. Her husband was a fitter and a member of the engineers' union. That he was a poor engineer was evidenced by his inability to get regular employment. He did not have the energy and enterprise necessary to obtain or hold a steady position. The pair had 2 daughters, and the 4 of them lived in a couple of holes called rooms by courtesy, for which they paid 7 shillings per week. They possessed no stove, managing their cooking on a single gas ring in the fireplace. Not being persons of property, they were unable to obtain an unlimited supply of gas, but a clever machine had been installed for their benefit. By dropping a penny in the slot, the gas was forthcoming, and when a penny's worth had forthcome, the supply was automatically shut off. A penny gone in no time, she explained, and the cooking not after. Incipient starvation had been their portion for years. Month in and month out, they had arisen from the table able and willing to eat more. And when once on the downward slope, chronic in-nutrition is an important factor in sapping vitality and hastening the descent. Yet this woman was a hard worker. From 4:30 in the morning till the last light at night, she said she had toiled at making cloth dress skirts lined up and with 2 flounces for 7 shillings a dozen. Cloth dress skirts marked up, lined up and with 2 flounces for 7 shillings a dozen. This is equal to $1.75 per dozen or 14 3/4 cents per skirt. The husband, in order to obtain employment, had to belong to the union, which collected 1 shilling and 6 pence from him each week. Also, when strikes were afoot and he chanced to be working, he had at times been compelled to pay as high as 17 shillings into the union's coffers for the relief fund. One daughter, the elder, had worked as green hand for a dressmaker for 1 shilling and 6 pence per week, 37.5 cents per week, or a fraction of 5 cents per day. However, when the slack season came, she was discharged, for she had been taken on at such low pay with the understanding that she was to learn the trade and work up. After that she had been employed in a bicycle store for 3 years, for which she received 5 shillings per week, walking 2 miles to work and 2 back and being fined for tardiness. As far as the man and woman were concerned, the game was played. They had lost handhold and foothold and were falling into the pit. But what of the daughters? Living like swine and fettered by chronic innutrition, being snapped mentally, morally, and physically, what chance have they to crawl up and out of the abyss into which they were born falling? As I write this, and for an hour past, the air had been made hideous by a free-for-all, rough-and-tumble fight going on in the yard that is back to back with my yard. And the first sounds reached me, I took it for the barking and starting of dogs, and some minutes were required to convince me that human beings, and women at that, could produce such a fearful clamour. Drunken women fighting. It is not nice to think of. It is far worse to listen to. Something like this it runs. Incoherent babble, shrieking at the top of the lungs of the woman, a lull in which is heard child crying, and a young girl's voice pleading tearfully. A woman's voice rises, harsh and grating. You, it me, just you, it me, when what? Challenge accepted and fight rages afresh. The back window of the houses commanding the scene aligned with enthusiastic spectators, and the sound of blows and of oaths that make one's blood run cold are borne to my ears. A lull, you let the child alone. Child, evidently of a few years, screaming in downright terror, a ride repeating instantly and at top pitch. 20 times straight running. You'll get this rock and the dead, and then rock evidently on the head from the shriek that goes up. A lull, apparently one combatant temporarily disabled and being resuscitated. Child's voice audible again, but now sunk to a lower note of terror and growing exhaustion. Voices begin to go up the scale, something like this. Yes, 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 sufficient affirmation on both sides. Conflict again, precipitated. One combatant gets overwhelming advantage and follows it up with a way other combatant screams bloody murder. Bloody murder gurgles and dies out, undoubtedly frothed by stranglehold. In trance of new voices, a flank attack, stranglehold, suddenly broken from way bloody murder, goes up half an octave higher than before. General, hula baloo, everybody fighting. Lull, new voice, young girls. I'm gone to take my mother's part, dialogue, repeating about 5 times. I'll do it, I blink, blanky, blank, blank. I like to see ya, blanket, blank, blank. Renewed conflict, mothers, daughters, everybody, during which my landlady calls a young daughter in from the back steps, while I wonder what will be the effect of all that she has heard upon her moral fibre.